Alright, in this recording we're going to show how to do exercise 1.73 out of the book using R, or using R to get the answers that the book would have. So I like to use a lot of comment lines so I can go back and look at my script window and know what I was doing. So I'm just going to put problem 1.73. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is open up your data set, which would be 1.73 EX 1.73. And once that opens in Excel, you'll have to save as a CSV. Now, I've kind of gotten the hang of a good way to name these things. First, you go down to Save as Type, go to CSV, and then I like to just do 173 as my file. And I already have one, but I'll go ahead and replace it. Okay. Keep the format. Good. Now, once we have that, I go back to my R script window, and I showed you could do the, what's it called, data, read.csv, and then in parentheses we'll put file.choose, open close parentheses. Okay. So when I hit Control R to get this into my console, it'll open up a window, and I can just select the file I want to use, and it sets it equal to data. So I can take a look at it. Okay, you can see there's a long list. So it's got 40 items we can see. If you type the head, use the head command, you can see that the first 6 entries, but the main thing is you can see the column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rename my data, because I'm only going to be using that column. So I'll use data and set that equal to data. Then $sign will set off the column, pick off the column, and it's CRP. Okay, so now if I look at data, I see I have a list of numbers, which is what I want. I also want to order this list for what we're going to be doing with the 5-number summary. So order list. So yeah, I'm just going to replace my data with the sorted data. So I use sort in the parentheses, or sort and in parentheses data. And if I look at the data again, I can see now it's from minimum to greatest. So first thing we want to do is find the minimum. So the minimum of data is 0. The maximum of data is 73.2. And the median of data, oh, it's capital lowercase d, okay, is 5.085. So let's just comment, make a note of these real quick. We had the minimum, and we'll use 2 decimal places. Maximum 73.2, and the median was equal to 5.09. Okay, so the tricky part is finding Q1 and Q3 to match up with the book. So this was an even with 40. So we can split this into 2 halves. So let's call one first half. And this is going to be the data set from 1 to 20. Okay. And if I want to view that, I can see my first half of my data. So Q1 is going to be the median of my first half. Which is 0. Okay. Now my second half is going to be my data from 21, I use colon, to 40. And if I want to look at that, Just type in second half. And I can see I have the second half of my list. And then Q3 is going to be the median of second half. And if I wanted to view that, just type in Q3, 9.47. Okay, so let's make a note of that. Q1 is equal to 0. And I'll put on the same line. Q3 is equal to 9.47. All right, so now we have our 5-number summary. And we can go ahead and create our box plot. We do box of data, box plot of data. Okay, and you see here, this is actually a modified box plot it did. You can see it has 5 outliers shown. Okay, so the whiskers do not go out to include the outliers. Let's see how we can use R to figure out what those outliers are. Okay, so the interquartile range, I'm called inter, is Q3 minus Q1. Okay, so if I want to see that, it's 9.47. Makes sense because Q1 is 0. My factor, I'll call it factor, is going to be 1.5 times my interquartile range, which is inter. Okay, so what I'll do is I want to add and subtract that number from my first and third quartile. So to get my above cutoff, for above, I'm going to take Q3 and add factor. So if I want to look at that, any data points above 23.675. And even though we can tell we don't have any here, let's just see, below would be first quartile minus factor. That would be any points below negative 14.205. But of course, our minimum is 0, so that's kind of irrelevant. If we wanted to actually get a list of what our outliers were, we could say outliers is going to be from the data set, all data that is below or less than below, or, and I use a vertical line, data that is greater than above. Okay. And if I want to view what those are, I can see my 5 points. Okay. If you ever want to get the length of something, you just type in length. You can see it's 5, which is what our picture showed. So again, the R will do the modified box plot. Okay, what about histogram? So let's do hist of data, lowercase d. I get a histogram. Move this width box here. Now let's add some color to it. I'll just go back in here and add, I don't know, color equals light blue. Okay. And my Y range, I don't like that my Y axis kind of cuts off before the highest value, so I'll just adjust that with Y limit. I'll concatenate a list with the max and min. So the min is going to be 0, and the max is at 35. And this does not go in quotations. Okay. And we can see we adjusted our Y scale. Of course, you can add a title by using the main equals. This would go in quotations. Histogram. Okay. You can change the X label and the Y labels by XLab and YLab. So just to see what this looks like. Again, we can see we have some outliers, but all this data is kind of in the beginning. So this is definitely skewed. And just a note too, if you check the mean and the median, for example, if I looked at the mean of this data set, if the mean is 10, right, but the median was 5. So if this was symmetric, the median and the mean would be very close. So just by looking at the mean and median, we can tell this is skewed. And of course, looking at the histogram, we can tell it's skewed, which would also tell us that the mean and median would not be the same. So some of the questions it asks, would you rather use the mean or the median for a measure of center? And if it's skewed, you can use the mean. If it's skewed, you can use the median. If it's symmetric, you can use the mean. Because if it was a perfect symmetric, the mean would equal the median. All right, well, I hope you found this helpful. Thanks.